Chapter 21. After a long journey, we finally reached the swamp. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A not-so-intense battle came to an end, and it also kicked off the opening of the wilderness. After Lear collected his thoughts, he waved his hand and asked hags to lead people to clean up the battlefield, but poor goblins still live in the wilderness, and there is really no money. After searching once, nothing was found, so they had to give up, rejoin the team, let the two teams of lizardmen continue to explore the way ahead, and Lear led the main force to keep a certain distance, prevent any accidents from happening again. However, the pressure emitted by the two-star dragon dung is fierce enough. Even though they have gone deep into the wilderness, they have not encountered any monster sneak attacks. If it weren't for the fact that the racial talents of the goblins were too strange, these lives might not dare to approach the dragon's power. Continue to move forward. The next day, July 17. When the convoy set out in the early morning, Lear ordered to soak 3 portions of dragon dung. At noon, the amount was increased to 4 portions. Each portion of dragon dung can emit 5 days of dragon power, and then it will quickly dissipate. This 10+ kilograms of dragon feces is enough to get to the swamp. The surging dragon power emitted by the 4 feces frightened the timid swamp people. Even though they knew it was just dragon feces, they still felt a strong sense of uneasiness. From time to time, they had to turn their heads to look at the pottery basin behind them. Even the ferocious lizard people were obviously restless at this moment. The dragon, the life at the top of the food chain, has long been horrible in the souls of ordinary life. Bane, the timid swamp hero, was restless and somewhat puzzled by Lear's orders, but he dared not say much. He could only suppress his doubts and move forward fearfully. At noon, a series of shrill voices came from the horizon. Lear looked up and his heart skipped a beat. Countless crows appeared in his sight, half an arm long, black all over, with long beaks. There were so many that a dark tide was formed, covering the sky. Level 5, carrion crows. The convoy suddenly became nervous. The swamp people were shaking with fear, and they wanted to hide under the wheels. The wetland lizardman drew out the steel knife in his hand. His eyes were full of ferocity, and he was ready for a bloody battle. But when everyone was under great pressure, the monster black tide in the sky approached the convoy 1,000 meters away, as if it had hit an invisible mountain, and suddenly turned around and flew to the other side. It narrowly avoided the convoy. Boom! A dazzling lightning burst out from the group of carrion crows. In an instant, dozens of crows fell from the air with black smoke all over their bodies. Then the terrifying thunder exploded. This seemed to have opened the prelude. Silver dragon lightning danced wildly in the black tide. Dazzling thunder continued to flash. The deafening thunder made people feel heartbroken. Lear looked intently, and saw a group of giant birds with a wingspan of 7 or 8 meters and covered in lightning running rampant among the scavenging crows. They preyed on these level 5 lives recklessly. Thunderstorm birds, level 13, there were more than 100 of them. The most powerful Griffin Legion in Lauren City. Its average level was only level 12. Is this the wilderness? A reckless massacre unfolded in mid-air. The thunderstorm birds controlled the thunder and slaughtered the crows at will, and the air was filled with the smell of burnt hair. If the flock of birds did not avoid them, even if the fierce thunderstorm birds were not targeting them, the terrifying thunder aftermath would have an impact on the convoy. Flying life, very fast. After several hunts, the scavenging crows sped up in the screams of fear. Gradually disappeared from sight. In the early morning, I was a little puzzled as to why Lear ordered to increase the dragon feces several times. Bane's face changed obviously at this moment. The eyes looking at Lear were full of heat. The adults seem to have some extraordinary power. They can predict the danger. This is a God-given skill in the wilderness. This sudden encounter not only did not make him feel uneasy, but his confidence in the future soared. In order to prevent accidents, after the crows left, Lear immediately asked the army to speed up. After walking more than 10 miles, they returned to normal speed. In the wilderness full of dangers, the biggest obstacle is not only the terrible monsters and wilderness life, but also the difficult road. It's all thanks to the majestic horses in the fantasy world, like a small truck with full horsepower, which can force the carriage to go. Otherwise, just rushing on the road can make people collapse. The long journey is boring and tasteless. After 2 days of rushing on the road, near the afternoon of the 19th, Lear suddenly ordered the lizardmen to deal with the dragon feces, and then set up camp in a tall grass. No one understands why they stopped so early today. when Lear ordered everyone to be silent and the horses were tied up, they realized something. Everyone tried to lower their breathing. Until dusk, the ground suddenly trembled, and it seemed that a large number of cavalry passed by in another direction. The vibration was not big, but the distance was only about 2 or 3 kilometers. If the dragon feces had not been destroyed, it would definitely attract the attention of the other party. Although I don't know who it is definitely not easy to mess with a large number of cavalry in the wilderness. Only Lear knows what they have avoided, the wilderness blood bandits. This is a caravan that plunders the lords who are pioneering in the wilderness. They are extremely cruel and terrible. Where they passed, there were only blood and corpses. Barbarians are the main source of wilderness bandits. These races, who grew up in the wilderness and were full of tyranny and killing, like to plunder the most. No wonder no one would choose to open up the wilderness 500 kilometers away. A wilderness banditry could destroy a lord who had just stepped into the wilderness. Everyone came to open up the territory, not to die. After a crisis of destruction, Lear relaxed a little and sent the lizardmen out to guard, so that everyone could rest peacefully. Traveling during the day and sleeping at night is the daily routine of traveling. At night, the danger of the wilderness increases significantly, and one can only act with caution. But Lear did not fall asleep, because the early morning was the 20th, and the intelligence was refreshed again. Traveling in the wilderness is full of unknown dangers. For most pioneering lords, just traveling requires a lot of effort. Scouts even need to go out 20 or 30 miles to guard against danger, and they may be attacked by wilderness monsters at any time. But for Bane, it became a bit boring, and he just had to travel and travel every day. The dragon feces made most of the life dare not approach. From time to time, the great lord asked the army to speed up, rest on the spot, or hide in the dense forest and grass. Then wave after wave of danger was avoided quietly. This made the swamp man more and more determined that his lord must have a strong sense of crisis. Even, it is possible to have the power to predict the future. The latter is purely his imagination, but the former is what he has determined during the journey for more than half a month. Lear's position in his heart has increased at an exaggerated speed. In just more than half a month, it has been filled with madness and passion. Following the strong is the nature of all life in the world of Nor. In the wilderness, this characteristic is magnified to the extreme. It's not just him, all the swamp people and wetland lizard people are like this. At noon on August 4th, the team stopped to rest. Since setting off on July 12th, until today, Lear has been traveling in the wilderness for a full 22 days, traveling during the day and resting at night. On the magic map, they are only 30 kilometers away from their destination, the mud swamp. Looking at the hexagram pattern shining so close, Lear's mood gradually became high. At noon today, he will be able to reach his own territory. Cultivating land, building cities, and gathering power will all start from here. Speed up. We will reach the territory before sunset. That when everyone heard this, their morale soared. The speed of travel was involuntarily increased, as the sun gradually sank into the ground, but the temperature was still hot. Suddenly a cool breeze blew from the front, and the body suddenly became comfortable. Lear was refreshed. Look up. At the end of the sight, a curved rainbow of 7 colors hangs in the sky, and the sunset glow in the sky is as colorful as fire, reflecting each other with the rainbow, which is magnificent. You can also see the water vapor evaporating upwards due to the high temperature. At the same time, on the magic map, his bright spot is completely integrated with the hexagram pattern. The mud swamp has arrived. Chapter 22. Your God is back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Finally we're here. I feel the swamp calling me. Is this where we live from now on? This seems to be bigger than the swamp we lived in before. Praise the goddess. Everyone was excited. The swamp people were dancing, and the wetland lizard people were also excited. After more than half a month of long journey, crossing thousands of miles in the wilderness, and going through many hardships, they finally arrived at the destination safely. The excitement in his heart was beyond words, and all emotions were vented. Lear was also in high spirits at this moment. Finally we're here, his territory, the place where everything started. At this moment, the swamp godhead floating in the magic seed in his mind suddenly bloomed with a faint luster. Lear subconsciously looked at the swamp that was blocked by the grass, and could vaguely feel that something he desperately wanted was sleeping in that land. Authority. It was like a traveler in the desert, longing for clean water. My lord. Bane interrupted his thoughts with a somewhat excited tone. The swampman hero said excitedly. There is plenty of water vapor here, and there must be a giant water vein in the swamp. For the swampmen, the swamp is their real home. The swamp they lived in before was forced to leave because the water veins dried up and the swamp died, which led to the capture of the slave team. The giant water vein is the guarantee of the existence of the swamp. There is a lot to do in the future, Lear gathered his mind and said in a brisk tone. I hope so. Everyone take a night's rest and explore the swamp tomorrow. He had to think carefully about the specific location of the territory and how to develop it next. The most important thing is that today is August 4th, and in the early morning, it is time for another intelligence refresh. In the past few days of rushing on the road, on the 20th, 25th, and 30th, the intelligence was refreshed 3 times, but these intelligences were all warnings without exception, predicting the threats ahead. Relying on intelligence, he avoided several rounds of monsters that could destroy the convoy. Finally arrived at this muddy swamp thousands of kilometers away from Lauren City. It seemed like a safe journey, but only he knew how great the risks he had experienced for more than half a month were. Set up camp, make a fire and cook. After dinner, Lear walked out of the tent. A crescent moon was like a hook in the sky, emitting white light. The heat in the air gradually dissipated, and the freshness came. Lear's mood also relaxed for a rare time, enjoying the night breeze comfortably. He saw hags who had just arranged the night guard. Seeing the hero he had cultivated with his own hands, he waved his hand and asked him to sit on the grass beside him. Hag sat down cautiously with some excitement. Master. Lear looked at the other person's expression and said softly. Hags, I haven't asked you yet, where was your previous home? Hags was stunned, with a little dim in his eyes. Master, the swamp we live in was occupied by a group of orcs a long time ago. I was forced to wander in the wilderness with my people. In a conflict with snake people, I was captured by passing humans. The word home was very strange in his eyes. This is also the way home for most of the wilderness life. The strong ones occupy a territory and can even build a city. Weak races can only wander in the wilderness. After saying this, Haggis hesitated. But after meeting you, I found the real meaning of existence. His eyes lit up. It is our honor to follow you in this life. Lear gave them the meaning of existence, letting them know who they are fighting for and why they are fighting. These things seem worthless, but they are of great significance to him. Hearing the heartfelt words of this lizard hero, Lear was also touched. Inexplicably, I felt that there was less distance between me and this world. Reached out and patted the other person's shoulder. From now on, this is our home. Haggis was stunned, wanting to say something, but didn't know what to say. In the end, he could only nod his head and hum. Inexplicably, I felt a long-lost warmth in my heart. It seems that everything is unspoken. After staying on the grass until the early morning, the moment the time jumped from August 4th to August 5th, the intelligence system page in Lear's mind changed again. The intelligence system has cooled down and the information can be refreshed. Do you want to refresh? He was refreshed, and his eyes showed some excitement and expectation. Refresh. The next second after the selection, 5 pieces of information were refreshed in sequence. 1. In the center of the swamp, there is a flat land with a diameter of 2 kilometers. It is the best area to build a territory. There is a winding path on the right that leads directly to the central flat land. If you encounter any fork in the road, just go left. 2 stars. 2. Once the swamp authority is activated, it will cause huge magic fluctuations. When you have complete control of the authority, please do not step out of the swamp. 2 stars. 3. After arriving at the center of the mud swamp, walk 10 kilometers southeast. There is a starry sky vine. These vines are tougher than steel ropes and are light in texture. They are very suitable for building houses in the swamp. 2 stars. 4. 30 kilometers north of the central area, there lives a group of rotten centaurs, with an average level of 8 and a maximum level of 10, and the number exceeds 500. 3 stars. 5. Under the territory occupied by the rotten centaurs, there grows a 1-star magic plant, blue heart mud fruit. 3 stars. Lear's mood immediately soared. The information refreshed this time all started at 2 stars, and there were 2 3-star information. This is the highest value in so many days. Take a deep breath, calm down, and start reading from the first article. Article 1 is about the territory construction site. In the center of the swamp, there is an open space with a diameter of 2 kilometers, suitable for building a territory, and the path to the center of the swamp is also given. With this information, you can save a lot of trouble. Very good. Item 2 is about activating the authority of the swamp, but where the authority lies and what form it takes is still a question. He could only write this down first and then operate it after gaining authority. The third piece of information is very interesting. Starry sky vines. This was the first time he had heard of this plant. The swamp has a special terrain, and it is easy to go wrong when building houses and buildings like ordinary land. Humid water vapor and prone to subsidence terrain are huge obstacles. Now we have the materials to build the territory. Good things must be obtained. The fourth piece of information, worth 3 stars. 30 kilometers north of the central area, there are more than 500 rotten centaurs living. The average level is 8, and the highest level is 10. They are all mid-level knights. Lear immediately felt the pressure. The most powerful being in hand at the moment, Haggis, is only level 7. Although it is a heroic unit, it is impossible for one person to deal with 500 rotten centaurs. It is unrealistic, unless it's a level 17 top powerhouse like Philena. Its 3-star value speaks volumes. The last piece of information is very meaningful. Under the rotten centaur, there is a magical plant, blue heart mud fruit. This magical plant has its own memory and is a rare magical food that can be directly eaten as a staple food. It's much worse than Noah's rice, but it only takes half a kilogram to keep a strong orc warrior full for a whole day, and the yield is very large. It can mature in 2 months. However, this kind of magical plant only grows in humid areas. It is difficult to cultivate and cannot be cultivated on a large scale. It has always been monopolized by the great nobles. If you can get it, the food problem will be solved. This is a strategic treasure related to the territory's survival and future development. The growing conditions required by the blue heart mud fruit are nothing to a swamp, the chosen plant. The value of 3 stars is indeed sufficient, but if you want to get this magical plant with great potential, you must first deal with the threat of the rotten centaur. Lear slowly fell asleep in deep thought. August 5th, early morning. Lear got up early, checked the amount of dragon feces, and looked at the swamp ahead. Mud, muddy water, carrion, weeds, moss, and single trees all fit in with the impression of swamps described by troubadours. Low weeds grow in the muddy water. Bubbles pop up from time to time in a few murky pools of dead water. Skeletons of unknown creatures can be seen half exposed on the water. The air is filled with the rotten smell of silt, and moss wraps the dry and rotten wood, covering it with a thick layer of green. A faint mist floated in the air, making it impossible to see clearly. A few sparse giant trees can be seen faintly through the fog, but they are not a forest. The silt swamp stretches for hundreds of kilometers and is home to countless swamp life forms. This is also a terrible place where danger and death coexist. The most impressive thing is the swamp that can swallow everything. This is a natural trap. If you take a wrong step, you will be swallowed by the mud and water. In addition, the humid environment breeds countless venomous mosquitoes and venomous snakes. Ordinary people would find it difficult to move even if they stepped into it. Above the mud, a crooked path extends into the mist. Lear took a deep breath and ordered Haggis to lead 5 teams of wetland lizardmen to patrol the front. Strive to eliminate all dangers. Then let the team set foot on the trail. The road is narrow and the convoy is inevitably stretched. The swamp people and the wetland lizard people are both swamp life forms. After entering the swamp, their energy and spirit have been significantly improved. The humid air, turbid mud pools, overgrown weeds, trees, and vines, and the strange environment in the swamp made them feel safe. This is even more true for Lear. After entering the swamp, he could feel that the entire swamp was cheering for joy, welcoming his arrival. He took a deep look at the wetland, his eyes as bright as stars. Your god is back. Chapter 23, Forged of Iron and Blood. Additional information. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Follow the winding swamp path inward. After a while, the mist began to dissipate. After entering the swamp, towering trees began to appear. Although they were sparse, they spread endlessly. Together with the tall grass, they blocked the sight, and the sight distance was only 100 or 200 meters away. The swamp pool exudes a faint rotten smell, and fish tails slap on the turbid water from time to time, causing ripples. There are many mosquitoes and snakes in the swamp, which are even more dangerous than the swamp monster. They are all pervasive and venomous mosquito snakes. Because of the giant dragon's excrement, they had already fled in panic and did not have much impact on them. After marching like this for about 20 minutes, a long roar suddenly came from ahead. It's Hags's voice. Warn of enemy attack. Lear's pupils shrank sharply, and he waved his hand to order the team to stop moving forward. Let 5 teams of wetland lizardman warriors guard, and the rest of the army press forward. After turning 2 corners, the view broadened, a low, open wetland with murky water half-soaked in short grass. A few big trees stood alone in the middle of the wetland, green and hazy. Haggis, a level 7 hero, was leading 5 teams of wetland lizardmen, roaring and fighting with a steady stream of monsters coming from behind on a hill about 10 meters high and covered with weeds. He is about 1.2 meters tall, like a half-grown child. It has a pointed mouth, 2 sharp teeth protruding from the lips, and 4 long beards on the sides of the mouth that almost snake to the back of the head, huge ears and crazy eyes. The body looks like an enlarged version of a mouse, but it walks upright. The claws were as sharp as daggers, reflecting the cold light in the morning sun. Kelder, level 3. Potential, 1 star, racial talent, death plague, which carries deadly germs. After damaging the enemy will be infected with the plague. Skill, bite, 1 star, bites the enemy with sharp teeth, causing piercing damage. Evaluation, life from the underground, don't be scratched by their sharp teeth. Level 3 wild monster. Lear's eyes narrowed slightly. The level is not high, but there are too many. There seems to be their nest in the hill behind. In this moment, the number of people gathered outside has exceeded 4 squadrons, and they are still coming out continuously. A large area of darkness. Even though the combat effectiveness of the wetland lizardmen is much higher than that of their opponent, their exaggerated numbers make them look like rocks struck by sea water. It may be destroyed at any time. Lear immediately ordered. Fight in and meet Haggis. That the wetland lizard warrior didn't hesitate at all. He clenched his steel knife and roared into the dense crowd of Kelder rats. The steel knife waved. Poof! The rat man without armor protection was directly cut into pieces. Blood spurted out wildly, but the ferocious rat man had no intention of retreating. The smell of blood stimulated the cruelty in his heart. He divided into 2 groups and rushed towards the 2 groups of people. It pounces on it, bites it like crazy while holding it. The sharp rodents were like daggers, piercing the armor and tearing the scales. The number of rat men was so exaggerated that even if the steel knives formed an entire column, they could not be completely blocked. The dozen or so wetland lizard men at the front were the first to be attacked. The crazy rat men lay on their bodies and bit hard at the gaps in their armor. Click! The crisp sound of bones breaking can be heard. The furious swamp lizard man swung the steel knife fiercely, and poof! Directly cut off the opponent's head. But what is chilling is that even if they have been beheaded, the ferocious rat head still bites their bodies and does not let go. Even the intensity is getting stronger and stronger. The terrifying bite force caused the arms of many warriors in front to be bitten through, but after being injured, the wetland lizard man also became crazy, and his amber eyes turned scarlet. He roared and charged into it. The car overturned and a large group of rat men in front merged with Haggis. At this moment, there are 15 teams of wetland lizard warriors on the battlefield. But the number of Kelder rat men increased from 4 squadrons to 7 squadrons. A sea of rats formed in the swamp. Moreover, new rat men are constantly emerging from the overgrown hills behind. The opponent's body is only 1.2 meters tall, his strength is average, and his defense is almost non-existent, but the abnormality lies in the opponent's sharp rodent incisors, which are extremely lethal. Even 1-star armor can be shattered by it. The scales of the wetland lizardman will be directly penetrated by it. Although each bite costs a life, the number is too many. Life for injury. These war-rats didn't take death seriously at all. Looking at the ferocious, fearless rat man, Lear, who was in the center of the military formation, felt the ferocity of the swamp for the first time. The Keld rat man is in a state of madness, and the skill of God's remaining power cannot subdue a life in this state. Taking a deep breath, his gaze became dangerous. If you can't conquer them, then slaughter them all. Kill! Magic power surges through his body, a ray of light blue light spanned the space and fell into the bodies of several severely injured wetland lizard warriors in front, their injuries healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Swamp gift, 1 star, can grow, casts a stream of energy containing vitality, covering a 3 by 3 meter area, which can speed up injury recovery and can restore up to 20% of the health value. The recovery effect of the cast on the Swamp Clan's life is increased to 30%. He has no damaging skills, but he has powerful healing skills. This is definitely the magic skill that the warriors in the front need the most. After a few treatments, the injured wetland lizard warriors became fierce again, fearless, fighting with the opponent in the most brutal manner. The battlefield has become a meat grinder, steel knives slashed, claws slaughtered, face-to-face fighting, every knife pierced the bone, the bloody flesh was blurred, and the blood-bursting scene made people feel cold in their hearts, but at this moment, under the battlefield atmosphere, no one felt fear, everything was blurred in the blood, and there was only one thought. Kill. Kill the bastards on the opposite side. The low grass beach and the swamp with rolling water plants were now scarlet, the rotten smell of muddy water and the stench of blood mixed together at this moment, making people feel sick. As a hero unit, Hags has now erupted with unimaginable combat power. There is a faint scarlet energy on his body, burning the body surface like a flame, chi and blood. Thousands of points of blood and chi added to Hags's destructive power, almost single-handedly. He blocked the Keld Ratman in one direction, kill one with one knife. The power of the hero was best demonstrated at this moment, but the ferocious and crazy Keld Ratman used the timeless human wave tactics to suppress this wetland lizardman hero. The real ants bite the elephant to death. A rough estimate shows that the ratmen in front of him have exceeded a battalion, over 1,000. The number of casualties is even more difficult to count. Lear did not kill a ratman himself, but when he, who has a powerful healing skill, sat in the center, the rhythm of the whole battle changed. The effect of the human wave tactic of exchanging life for injury was suppressed to the freezing point. The scars left on the wetland lizardman warriors by the death and injury of 4 or 5 Keld ratmen were healed in the blink of an eye. The opponent's brutal sacrifice did not achieve the expected results. 15 teams, 150 people. With extremely high efficiency, they killed more than 3,000 Keld ratmen. Finally, after another attack was chopped off by a steel knife, a shrill rat squeak sounded from the hill behind. 5 or 6 squadrons of Keld ratmen retreated like a tide, all disappearing in the hill behind. Only corpses and body parts were left all over the ground. The heavy blood even made the swamp soil unable to see its original color. Lear stood on the battlefield, staring at the horrifying scene indifferently, and slowly exhaled. The blood and body parts did not make his heart tremble. Again. Iron, blood and killing were forging a lord suitable for survival in the wilderness. Before he could make any move, the intelligence system in his mind suddenly flashed. You commanded the army to kill 3692 Keld ratmen, achieved a brilliant victory, and obtained an additional intelligence. The swamp godhead has the ability to extract the essence of life force. As long as you are in the swamp, you can use the power of the godhead to extract the essence of the life you executed. Note, the life essence can promote the evolution of the swamp tribe's life, break the potential limit, and complete the transformation. The upper limit of your subordinate's potential can now be improved to 2 stars. You need to control the authority of the swamp to increase the upper limit. Lear's breath trembled, and his eyes suddenly became hot. Chapter 24, The Underworld, a shocking scene. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I didn't expect to get an unexpected reward. Another valuable piece of information. In the swamp, you can use the divine power to extract the essence of life. And these life essences can break the potential limit. Although the current upper limit is only 2 stars of potential, it still makes Lear very excited. What is the most lacking now? Sufficient military force, and the only force that can be mobilized is the wetland lizardmen, but these 1-star potential warriors have reached the upper limit of level 6. Turning around and looking at the blood-stained black armor around him, the warriors who were full of bloodthirsty and brutal aura, his eyes lit up. Gather all the bodies of these ratmen together. The order was issued, and the wetland lizardmen who had left the battle immediately took action. At this moment, Haggis came over from the haystack in the distance, carrying a dying Keld ratman. Master, this is a newly discovered hybrid. The amber pupils had a bit of lingering murderous intent. There is no need to give a good face to the enemy. Lear looked at the panting, bloody Keld Ratman, his eyes slightly condensed. Where are you from? The Ratman grinned, blood kept flowing from the corner of his mouth, and the sound was like a windmill. The Great Queen will feed all of you to the rat cubs. This area is the territory of our Kakalo clan. Surface people, you are courting death. Kakalo clan. Your territory. Hag's eyes turned cold, and he creaked, the hand holding the other's neck tightened a little. A bunch of lowly bastards dare to peek at my lord's land. The Kakalo clan is the ruler of the Dark Mountains. Surface people, you will never imagine what kind of existence you have provoked. That the voice of the Keld Ratman was sharp, and his attitude was still crazy. Dark Mountains. Surface people. These two keywords made Lear's eyes condense. The Dark Mountains are a famous mountain range in the underground world. There is actually a passage to the underground world in the swamp. Lear's thoughts turned, and he said slowly. Cursing is just the wailing of the weak. Keld Ratman, you dare to peek at the surface? We are just an outpost to explore. Wait, when Her Majesty the Queen kills the red dragon that is about to die of old age, this place will become the paradise of the Kakalo clan, and you can't escape. As the voice fell, his breathing became rapid, and then his body stiffened, his eyes lost focus, and his life breath suddenly disappeared. Dead. Hags's face was a little ugly, and he twisted violently. He tore off the other party's head directly and smashed it into the muddy water in the distance, splashing a large amount of water. He was actually threatened by this damn sewer bastard. Lear was not angry, and looked around calmly. Find a few more alive to question. Hags took action immediately and found 4 seriously injured Keld Ratmen. After a round of interrogation, the final confessions confirmed each other. What the other party said was true. These Keld Ratmen actually came from the underground world, but unlike the information that the Ratman said at the beginning, the Kakalo clan has not yet reached out to the surface. They are just scouts who are exploring the way and accidentally discovered the passage to the surface. The message has not been passed back yet, and the journey to the underground took them 7 days and it took some time to reach the underground. The Kakalo clan is indeed strong, and the other party is preparing to hunt a red dragon that is about to die of old age, but that requires the whole clan's strength. Even if the red dragon is killed, it will take some time to recuperate and will not pay attention to the surface in a short time. After getting the confirmed news, Lear was relieved. Now that he has just arrived at the silt swamp, he is not willing to face these brutal enemies so soon. No matter how powerful the potential is, it takes time to realize it. What he lacks most now is time. In the gap between his interrogation, the wetland lizardmen piled up the corpses fished out of the scarlet mud water into a small hill. More than 3,000 hideous corpses piled together look quite visually impactful. Bill Jingwan. In the past half-month, Lear, who had experienced dozens of conflicts and fights, has gradually grown up. Such a bloody scene, although chilling, is not enough to shake his heart. You must get used to it. The weak have no right to survive in this world. Take a deep breath and try to inject mental power into the broken blue godhead in your mind. Look at the towering pile of corpses and slowly stretch out your right hand. The magic power is like the flame burning on your body, suddenly soaring. It surges directly and erodes the pile of corpses in front. The next moment, the light blue flame begins to burn on the corpse. One after another, the scarlet essence of life is extracted, floating in the air, and gathering into a river. Lear's mind moved. Those scarlet energies slowly spread out like river water and poured into the bodies of the wetland lizard men around. The wetland lizard men only felt that some wonderful changes had taken place in their bodies. The muscles became thicker, the bones became stronger, and the tendons gradually became tougher. They are getting stronger. When the amber pupils looked at Lear, they became hot and crazy again. The master is rewarding them with power. The pile of corpses gradually shrank, and finally, like a dried corpse that had been weathered for thousands of years, it broke directly with a crack. It turned into scum all over the ground, submerged in scarlet muddy water. After the energy of the corpse was drained, the rapidly growing aura of the wetland lizard man returned to calm. Lear looked at the wetland lizard man beside him with some curiosity. On its properties panel, an additional status bar appears behind the potential bar. Potential, 1 star, evolution level, 50%. The evolution level only needs to reach the full limit, and the potential can exceed 2 stars. Will the level cap also be increased? The life essence of more than 3,000 Keld rat men has allowed these 15 teams of wetland lizardmen to reach half of their evolutionary level. In other words, if you spend more than 3,000, you can achieve transformation. Not bad, very good. Lear was in a good mood. Gods are indeed the ultimate beings in this world. He only has a small amount of power, but he is already so extraordinary. If one could completely control the godhead, one cannot imagine how powerful it would be. But it's a pity that the current maximum potential that can be improved is only 2 stars. Haggis, a 2-star hero, has not changed. After calming down, Lear asked the wetland lizardmen to search, especially the passage where the rat men fled. However, as the interrogation information said, the passage leading to the underground world is winding and rugged, and the wetland lizard people cannot enter at all. I can only write down this location on the magic map and explore it later. The underground world, the dark mountains, the Keld Skaven, the red dragon who dies of old age, the Skaven queen. There was a sense of mystery in these, giving him a desire to explore clearly. Give him a certain amount of time to develop. You may not know who the prey will be. Organize the team and start again. The winding path passes through swamps, mire, trees, and grass. After traveling for 2 or 3 kilometers, 4 forks appeared in front of us, leading to different directions. Lear waved his hand and signaled to march to the far left. Over the past half-month, he has established absolute prestige among the group. Even if it is unreasonable, no one will question it. Even many people in the mire almost regard Lear as the son of God who can listen to the will of the gods. The dragon excrement dispersed most of the danger, and the speed began to increase. At noon, they had traveled 20 kilometers. But at this moment, Lear suddenly waved his hand and asked everyone to stop. The tone was somewhat solemn. Destroy the dragon excrement immediately. Everyone get down. Bane, who was behind, didn't think much and immediately poured a large amount of water into the pottery basin. After the blood-soaked dragon feces was soaked in water, it dimmed like a light bulb that had lost its power. The power of the dragon is gone. A moment later, when the crowd was confused, roared out. A low roar sounded in the air. Looking up, a terrifying life with a wingspan of more than 20 meters, like an ancient behemoth, was passing through the air. Casts a huge shadow. It was a giant flying dragon with thick legs. The ferocious dragon head is more terrifying than the dragons on the reliefs and murals in the city. The gray dragon skin is like the bark of a 1,000-year-old tree, rugged and full of toughness. What's even more terrifying is the coercion it exudes, which is the power in the superior life bloodline, like a mountain pressing down on its head. Wyvern, level 16. Potential, 4 stars. The upper limit of 4-star potential is level 15, but this flying dragon actually has a level of 16. The other party has broken the upper limit. Lear's eyes became extremely sharp. Just looking at it from a distance, I felt the pressure that penetrated my soul. Everyone in the team didn't dare to breathe. The bogman's 2 buttocks were fighting, and even some of his crotches were soaked. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying flying dragon disappeared without a trace, but no one had recovered yet, immersed in that terrible pressure. Lear let out a long breath. After entering the swamp, his perception was magnified by the swamp 10 times as he integrated into the godhead. After feeling uneasy in his heart, he decisively ordered the disposal of the dragon's feces. If this bipedal flying dragon is discovered, I am afraid that a great terror will happen in an instant. The inner vigilance suddenly reached its peak at this time. In the dangerous wilderness, no one can tell when the next danger will come. He must use the intelligence system, use the godhead, and use all the power at his disposal to make himself stronger as soon as possible. Flying dragon, sooner or later I will make you crawl under my feet. After this shock, my heart became firm again. Re-soak in dragon excrement. Let's go. Chapter 25 3-Star Monster Swamp Tree Man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 25 3-Star Monster, Swamp Treeman. After these 2 encounters, everyone's inner vigilance was raised to the highest level. Lear continued to send more people, and up to 5 teams of wetland lizardmen were exploring the way ahead. Wetland lizardmen are swamp creatures, and it is instinctive for them to explore and travel in the swamp. After encountering the flying dragon on the road ahead suddenly became smooth. There was no obstacle on the way. This rather abnormal scene made Lear frown a little. Bane seemed to have noticed his emotions, and the swamp hero whispered. "Sir, this wyvern has extremely pure blood, and its level is probably above level 15. Its dragon power is not inferior to that of an ordinary adult dragon, and it will cause great shock and fright wherever it passes. The swamp creatures in this area are probably hiding at the moment, or have fled here for a short time. But at most half a day, they will return one after another, and we need to hurry up." Lear nodded and looked at the swamp hero with algae-green pupils curiously. "Are you familiar with wyverns?" Bane's eyes showed some memories, nodded, and shook his head. "We once got a wyvern cub and wanted to cultivate it. But the other party needed too many resources, so we were forced to give up in the end." The look in his eyes was full of bitterness. Who can understand the unwillingness and helplessness of getting a treasure but not having the strength to control it? How can such a good treasure be obtained? "Lucky, but unfortunately the strength is a little poor." Lear patted the other party on the shoulder. "There will be a future." No more words, urging the team to speed up, try to reach the destination before the remaining power of the wyvern dissipates. After the order was issued, everyone worked hard to hurry on, and the speed of travel suddenly increased. Twist after turn, fork roads, muddy roads, haystacks, dense forests, and almost all kinds of complex terrain appeared in front of them, but everyone was surprised to find that Lear could choose the right route every time. "Will not get lost, no need to turn back, it's like having the ability to predict the future." Bane watched from behind, his eyes became more and more fanatical. "My lord, you must be the chosen son favored by the gods." After continuing to hurry on, the sun gradually moved westward, and after crossing a muddy grass road, the view suddenly became wider. In front of him was a low grassland that was not higher than the instep, which was very spacious, and the edge could only be seen when the view was far away. In the center, there were a few sparse trees growing, the green grass was about 1 meter above the water, and the swamp mud and water flowed slowly around. The verdant and vibrant picture gave people a feeling of peace and tranquility. "We're here." Everyone was excited at this moment. After more than 20 days, thousands of kilometers, resting at night and traveling during the day, we finally arrived at the territory, our future home. While everyone was excited, Hags came to Lear's side with a gloomy face. He pointed to the more than 10 sparse trees in the middle of the front with a height of more than 15 meters and dense crowns. "Master, those are not trees, they are swamp tree people." Lear's eyes condensed slightly and he looked up. The gray trunks were rugged, with large patches of moss growing on them. The branches were thick, the green leaves fluttered in the wind, and some yellow leaves fell from time to time. From the outside, there was no difference, but after the perception was extended, one could immediately feel the vigorous life of these trees burning like a furnace. Swamp treeman, level 9. Potential, 3 stars, level cap 12. Racial talent, son of the earth, rooted in the earth, defense increased by 50%, can continuously absorb the power of the earth to recover. Skills, root binding, 2 stars, bind the enemy with roots, with paralysis characteristics. Branch whip, 2 stars, whip the enemy with branches, causing an additional 40% damage. Evaluation. Swamp treeman has strong combat power, but cannot move before reaching level 10, 3-star potential, level 9 swamp treeman. Master, please give the order. Hag's eyes were firm. As long as Lear gave the order, he would lead the charge. No matter if there was a treeman or a dragon in front. Lear shook his head slowly. Although the level was only 3 levels higher than the wetland lizardman, the combat power was more than twice that of the wetland lizardman. The price to pay for being tough is too heavy. No need to bring people with me. He said as he slowly stepped forward. When he was about 50 meters away, Lear stopped. Staring at the giant trees that were more than 15 meters high. There were 12 trees in total. The swamp tree man had a fatal flaw that he could not move. Although he lost the ability to move, he gained abnormal standing and shooting strength. In the absence of long-range means, it would definitely cost a lot to remove these 12 swamp tree men, fighting with the tree man. The opponent's branches, which were thicker than the steering wheel, swept down, and I am afraid that they could directly smash the wetland lizard man. Aware of the arrival of outsiders, the big tree in front shook its branches, a burst of fallen leaves floated down, and ugly faces appeared on the thick, mossy gray trunks. The mouth opened and made a sound as deep as thunder. Outsiders, this is not the place for you to come. Leave immediately. Ancient tree man language, higher language, you don't need to know the other person's words to hear their meaning. Directly transmit information to the spirit. Lear stared at the tree man in the front, and before he spoke, Haggis got angry. Outsider. Tree man, this is the territory of the master. You should kneel down and kowtow. That the slow-tempered tree man was immediately angered by this, the face on the tree trunk became a little distorted, and he was about to start cursing. Suddenly, he felt an unspeakable and indescribable pressure surging from the human boy in front of him. There was a bit of fear on his face, the residual power of the gods. This magical skill can make subordinates submit forever and never betray. However, the premise is that the other party is in a poor state and cannot escape and dodge, and can only bear the majesty of the gods. If the other party is free and in good condition, it is easy to anger the other party. Even if the gods come to the world, there are still a large number of people who refuse to obey. It is not realistic to want to sweep the swamp with pressure alone. The real strength is still one's own strength, but the situation is different now. The swamp tree people can't move, they must resist the majesty of the swamp godhead, even if it is just a broken godhead, even if the authority has not been activated, but the gods are still gods, far from being resisted by mortals. The other party can move, can escape from this area, and is not covered by the divine power, but the swamp tree people must bear it all. The 12 swamp tree people immediately felt their souls trembling, and wanted to crawl and kneel down to the person in front of them. The other party seemed to be the master who occupied their souls, an extremely majestic existence. No. You demon. Don't even think about enslaving our souls. That the swamp tree people immediately went crazy, sizzled that the earth suddenly collapsed, and countless roots like steel whips tore the ground, dancing wildly like a mad dragon. Bang bang. The roots whipped the ground, exploding mud and grass debris all over the sky. This terrible scene did not change Lear's face, and he still stared at the tree people calmly. If you want to enslave the other party, you have to defeat them completely. At this moment, the opportunity is special. The range of 30 meters is the area covered by the roots of the swamp tree man. Lear stood 50 meters away, and the other party could not cause him any harm. The mental power was constantly injected into the dark blue godhead, inspiring a more powerful divine power. The rolling pressure was stronger than the dragon power of the two-legged dragon. It surged out unscrupulously and pressed on the soul of the swamp tree man. The resentment and anger in his heart subsided a little after venting, and the soul gradually adapted to the feeling of surrender and submission. This made the swamp tree man panic. He began to beg for mercy loudly, but Lear ignored it and still maintained his divine power. Surrender or be destroyed. That the soul seemed to be grasped by a giant hand, creaking, but the tree man was unwilling to surrender. No. Demon, you will never enslave us. Never. Under the resolute resistance, the life fire of these stubborn tree men began to dim. After a stalemate for half an hour, Lear's face turned pale. Maintaining the power for a long time was a huge drain on him, but this is the eagle training. Whoever can't bear it first will be eliminated. But now, the initiative is in his hands, and the time, place, and people are all in his hands. What can you fight me with? The tree man in the front felt that his soul had been cracked. The desire to surrender in his heart had reached its peak, and the last rebellious psychology was completely wiped out in weakness. The branches slowly drooped, and the face on the trunk was a little afraid. Great Lord, the master of the swamp, I am willing to submit to you. With the surrender of a tree man, the remaining 11 tree men who had already been unable to support themselves also lowered their heads in a moment, obeyed the soul and blood. Lear felt the respectful obedience from their souls, and his mental power surged out, easily leaving a mark in their souls. The pressure was dissipated, and the pale face recovered some blood. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Eagle. Tamed. These 12 tree people were directly transformed into the first batch of guards of the territory. The original disadvantage instantly turned into an advantage. Chapter 26 Starry Sky Vines. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hags, who witnessed all this, trembled in his heart. Such a powerful swamp tree man surrendered under the majesty of the master. There is no need to fight at all, this is his master. A powerful and fierce master. Bane was also very excited. The rolling divine power not only frightened the swamp tree man, but also made all the mud people tremble. Lear ignored the thoughts of the crowd and looked at the carriage. Send all the goods here. The territory will be built with this as the center. Bane, you go to explore the surroundings, determine the terrain, and plan the future territory construction. This mud hero can only be useful at this moment. Bane nodded excitedly, but in a moment he seemed to think of something and hesitated. My lord, what is the name of our territory? Lear said meaningfully. The city of Weak Dew. The city of Weak Dew. Bane was stunned at first, and then his eyes became extremely excited. The city of Weak Dew. But soon, the first war of the gods broke out, the god of the swamp fell, and the construction of the city of Wei Lu was far away. The successor god of the swamp never built the holy city of the swamp again. From then on, the name of Wei Lu city could only be heard in legends. This name is meaningful. They want to reproduce the glorious past of the swamp people. Reforge the broken sword. We will follow you wherever you look. Lear nodded slightly, without saying much. Let them go down to work, and he came to the front of the swamp tree man again. The roots of these big trees have been buried in the ground again, and there is only a mess on the grass. It takes time to nurture it again. Is there any enemy around here that can threaten our existence? The swamp tree man in the front said in a muffled voice. Master, there is a group of wandering smelly giants in the north. The number is unknown. There are dozens of two-headed ogres in the east. Smelly giants, two-headed ogres. Lear raised his eyebrows. How strong are they? The stinking giant monsters are around level 9 and often come to this area to hunt. The two-headed ogre arrived 3 months ago, and the average level is 10. His eyes narrowed slightly. There are no weaklings who can survive in the swamp. These are two threats that cannot be ignored, and the specific situation must be investigated. After asking for a while, the swamp tree man failed to provide more information. Although these level 9 tree men are not weak, their inability to move is too fatal, and they can only passively wait for others to approach. The hunting range of the stinking giant monsters and the two-headed ogre is relatively wide, so they can know the approximate location of the other party. For the others, he can only rely on him to explore. With the level 9 swamp tree men as the power to guard the home, plus 200 level 6 wetland lizard warriors wearing thick armor, there is no need to be too nervous. The majestic horses pulled the supplies to the center, started to unload the goods, tents were set up one by one, and all the supplies were moved inside. Looking at the busy crowd, Lear felt inexplicably touched. He will start from scratch on this open space and build his own territory. That feeling is quite wonderful. It's like playing a real-life farming game, but this feeling is incomparable. To the game, take a deep breath, reopen the intelligence system, and look at the 3 unfinished intelligence. 3. After arriving at the center of the mud swamp, walk 10 kilometers southeast. There is a star vine. These vines are tougher than steel ropes, and the texture is light, which is very suitable for building houses in the swamp. 2 stars. 4. 30 kilometers north of the central area, there lives a group of rotten centaurs, with an average level of 8, the highest level of 10, and a number of more than 500. 3 stars. 5. Under the territory occupied by the rotten centaurs, there grows a 1-star magic plant blue heart mud fruit. 3 stars. In addition to the stinking giant monsters and two-headed ogres mentioned by the swamp tree people, the rotten centaurs 30 kilometers north of also need to be vigilant. This is a high-level wild monster base. We have to wait until the potential and level of the wetland lizardmen are improved before we can try to explore and attack. While thinking, his eyes were on the third piece of information southeast, 10 kilometers away, starry sky vines. While thinking, Lear called Bane again. Do you know starry sky vines? The swamp hero thought for a moment and whispered. My lord, it is said that starry sky vines are as hard as steel and are very suitable for swamp growth. The most powerful swamp city, the swamp city, used starry sky vines to build houses. He hesitated again. But after the swamp city was destroyed, it is rare to see it, and even the legend is rare. Lear smiled. If we can get the starry sky vines, can you use them? When Bane heard this, his eyes lit up. My lord, is that true? He patted his chest and promised. Of course I can. That's the starry sky vine. The construction foundation of the legendary city of the swamp tribe, the city of Swamp. Lear nodded and looked at hags on the side. Leave 5 teams and the swamp tree people to guard the supplies. Everyone else, follow me. Yes, Lord. Hags immediately went to mobilize people. 15 teams gathered. Lear didn't stay for long and turned to the southeast, with the swamp tree people guarding the territory. This greatly liberated the power in his hands. Without the burden of the caravan, the marching speed was very fast. Walking in the wet swamp, Lear felt a strong sense of intimacy and comfort. His perception was expanded to the greatest extent. He could also sense danger even in places beyond his sight. The range reached 300 meters. When powerful creatures like flying dragons appeared, this range would be increased several times. The swamp was his home ground. After marching about 2 kilometers, Lear suddenly waved his hand to stop the army. He looked at the reeds that were half a person's height and fluttering in the breeze 100 meters ahead. All troops, be on guard, there are enemies ambushing in the reeds. The amber eyes of the wetland lizardman immediately revealed murderous intent. Gathered at his side, sensing their actions, curses came from the reeds, rustling and shaking. A group of ugly creatures, 1.5 meters tall, emerged from the cave, looking at them fiercely. The head had an ugly fish face, and the dead white eyes were extremely creepy. The body was covered with slippery and sticky mucus, with a pungent stench, which made people feel sick. Standing on 2 feet, holding a bone spear in his hand. Half Malak, level 5, potential 1 star, racial talent, slippery mucus. The mucus on the body has extra resistance to magic, and the magic damage received is reduced by 20%. Skills, mucus harpoon, 1 star, mucus is attached to the weapon, which can cause adhesion and deceleration when attacking the enemy. Wetland life, 1 star, move in the wetland and gain an additional 30% movement speed. Evaluation, common life in the swamp. In a moment, the number of half-murlocs exceeded 4 squadrons. Lear looked a little unkind. 1 star potential, level 5 wild monster. What cats and dogs dare to ambush? Kill. A cold snort. Hags took the lead and rushed forward. With an absolutely violent attitude, he tore the 7 or 8 half-fishmen in front of him and killed into the crowd. The blood dyed his body red, making this wetland lizardman hero more and more crazy. Brutal. When he is hurt or attacks, he will become extremely brutal. All attributes will increase by 30%, fearless of pain, and fight the enemy to death. Crazy blood. After tasting the taste of blood, the body size will increase by 20% and the strength will increase by 40%. All skills are born for killing. Ordinary wetland lizardmen are not so fierce in combat, but they are also killing half-fishmen. A wetland lizardman swung a steel knife to chop, and the half-fishman fighting with him was very flexible and ducked to avoid it. The spear in his hand pierced his abdomen fiercely, but click, the bone spear broke directly. Only a white mark was left on his armor. The wetland lizardman grinned and swung his arm violently. The sharp claws were like knives, piercing through the chest directly, and a bloody claw appeared on the back of the murloc. With a strong swing, the body was torn apart and thrown aside like garbage. The efficiency of slaughtering was not much slower than that of the level 3 Keld Ratman. The ordinary wetland lizardmen were stronger than these murlocs individually. With the crushing of equipment, they immediately showed their brutal side. Although the murlocs were equally fierce, the weapons in their hands could not even pierce the armor of the wetland lizardmen. One after another, the murlocs were slaughtered, and the number of the 4 squadrons decreased at an exaggerated rate. Soon, there were less than 3 teams left on the field. These swamp monsters finally collapsed. The fear in their eyes could no longer be concealed, and they threw down their weapons with trembling hands and turned to flee. But in order to prevent the other party from running away, Lear had already mobilized several teams to block the bushes in advance. The grinning wetland lizardmen began the final finishing work. The steel knives swung together. Puff puff. The sound of the long knives entering the flesh and tearing the flesh and bones resounded through the sky. The haystacks were stained with blood. All the 5th and 5th level fishmen from the 4 squadrons were slaughtered. The price paid was more than 30 people were injured, and all of them were lightly injured. About 30 people, and all of them were lightly injured. Lear originally wanted to find a few survivors, but by the end, there was no one left who could breathe. Obviously, they killed too many people. He didn't hesitate, looking at the corpses all over the ground. His eyes were no longer strange, and his tone was a little happy. Gather all together. These corpses are rich spoils of war. The wetland lizardmen had experienced the Keld rat men, and they immediately became excited. They moved the corpses over quickly and piled them into a pile, and then stood on one side with expectation. Lear smiled, and didn't waste words. The magic power on his body surged, and the light blue light enveloped the surroundings. Scarlet life energy floated up from the broken bodies of the murlocs and poured into the bodies of the surrounding wetland lizardmen. When these corpses turned into residue, the evolution degree on the panel increased directly from 50% to 70%. It was a big step forward from breaking the limit and evolving into a 2-star potential. This made Lear very happy. The level 5 murlocs provided more life energy than the level 3 rat men. Obviously, the higher the level, the richer the life essence. The future battles and hunting have also become a good thing. Chapter 27 Vine Fairy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Haggis led people to search, but did not find the habitat of the half-murlocs. Seeing this, Lear did not waste any time and continued on his way. Passing through this reed area, there is an algae area in front. The green algae pulls out long ties, and small pure white flowers grow on the top, floating on the water and swaying with the swamp current. The breeze blows, and the white flowers sway, exuding bursts of fragrance. Lear felt a little more relaxed when he saw this scenery. At this moment, the wetland lizard man in front let out a cry of surprise. He immediately came closer. In the muddy water, you can see several huge 3-toed footprints, several times thicker than a millstone, heading deep into the swamp. An unknown life passed by here. Judging from the appearance of the footprints, it is definitely a monster with a terrifying size. Lear's heart trembled, although no dangerous aura was sensed. But my inner vigilance increased again. There are countless dangers in the swamp. So we must not be careless. He glanced at the direction the other party was leaving, and silently noted it down for future exploration. It seems that because of the remaining power of the flying dragon, except for the half-murloc just now, there are not many swamp monsters around. The road was smooth, and after passing through a dense forest, Lear was shocked. Ahead is an area filled with low haystacks. Turbid water kept flowing between the haystacks. These haystacks, which are no bigger than the insteps, are deeply rooted in the swamp, fixing the pieces of soil and forming stepping stones floating on the swamp. It is also the most common thing in swamps. When he stepped onto the haystack, Lear felt that the surroundings suddenly became dry. The air in the swamp was originally as humid as returning to the southern sky, but now the moisture in the air seemed to have been sucked away by something. Look around. In the center of this swamp haystack, there is a large cluster of vines about 20 meters wide. The root of the vine is as thick as a thigh, and the top shoots are about the size of a thumb. What is striking is that the vines are dotted with stars, twinkling and shining under the sunlight. It's like the stars are flowing, gives people a dreamy feeling. Starry sky vine. Lear's eyes lit up instantly. This appearance is exactly like its name, Starry Sky. Judging from the appearance alone, it is definitely not an ordinary thing. Stare and look. The opponent's attribute panel immediately came to mind. Starry Sky Vine. Level, 2 stars. Characteristics, 1, tough. The texture is as tough as a steel rope, difficult to cut, and can grow quickly after breaking. 2. The starry sky can absorb starlight to grow, and can store starlight and turn it into magic power, which can speed up the physical recovery rate of surrounding life. Evaluation, a unique vine in the swamp, but it needs the care of the vine fairy to survive. Lear was pleasantly surprised. This is actually a 2-star magic plant. Both properties are excellent, not to mention the tough texture. There is also a property that can speed up physical recovery. This is used to build a house and is absolutely perfect. However, the evaluation made him a little surprised. What kind of creature is this vine fairy? While confused, he suddenly saw a strange creature the size of a fist flying through the vines out of the corner of his eye. The opponent has a pair of green wings woven with vines, and when it flaps, a little green light shines from behind. She has fair and soft skin, a round and chubby face, and is wearing a small vine skirt, with a crown of thorns on her head. She looks like a little princess. After falling on a vine, the strange creature saw a white flesh insect eating the vine, and frowned. In distress, with a wave of his hand, the starry sky vines erupted into spots of light, and the flesh insect seemed to be bounced off by a spring, flying far away and hitting a haystack. The chubby little cute thing giggled and smiled contentedly, then he flapped his little wings and continued to patrol his territory. is this fist-sized, fleshy little guy the vine fairy? It's too cute. Lear was made cute. If this thing were on Earth, it would definitely be a top national treasure. Vine fairy, level 5, potential, 3 stars, racial talent, the gift of vines can absorb power from the vines and improve the level, skills, grow fast, 2 stars, it exudes unique energy and can greatly speed up the growth of vines, wonderful journey, 2 stars, can blend into vines, use vines to avoid enemies, and can move freely within vines. When entering the roots, it can control vines, sparkle, 2 stars, make yourself glow, giving off the light your vines need to grow, evaluation, strange magical lives, they exist like flowers in spring and cicadas in summer, 3-star potential. Lear's eyes looked a little hot, he keenly felt that these little cuties might be more precious treasures than the starry sky vines. It is rare for the intelligence system to give such a special evaluation, he didn't expect to have such an unexpected gain. At this moment, the vine fairy who was traveling among the vines also noticed something strange and suddenly let out a cry of surprise. The body turned into a point of light and merged directly into the vine. Looking around, there is only a starry vine left, this is that skill. A wonderful journey. It's amazing. While Lear was thinking, the wetland lizard man who was exploring ahead had already approached the vines, who the branches of the starry sky vines suddenly danced like an octopus, whoosh the vines, which were tougher than steel ropes, hit the air, making a sharp explosion. The wetland lizard man was immediately startled and retreated quickly. If he was whipped, even armor could not stop it. It was obviously not just luck that this bunch of vines could grow and multiply. Watching the vines waving secretly, Lear smiled a little. What he liked most was these immovable lives. The magic power was running, and the mental power was fully opened. A majestic pressure surged up, it instantly enveloped the vines, the remaining power of the gods. At this moment, he could clearly sense that there were 16 breaths of life hidden in the vines. The vine fairies who sensed the power of the gods did not hide unexpectedly, but showed their figures one by one with a little excitement. They poked their heads out from the vines, nervous and excited, and looked at him with a little disbelief. Father God, you are back. I thought you forgot about us. Are you really the Father God? Father God. The excited voice made Lear, who was ready to overpower others, a little surprised. Father God. This title, could it be that the vine fairies were created by the swamp god? With a move in his heart, he looked at these little guys lovingly. Children, the past is the past. I am back again. I will take back everything that belongs to us. Come home with me and start over. These words made all the vine fairies excited, feeling the breath of the swamp god that penetrated into their souls. They looked at him with tears in their eyes and flew over with their wings flapping. Father God. Father God, you finally came to pick us up. Lear smoothly imprinted a mark in his soul, looking at these fist-sized 3-star lives with eyes full of attachment and trust. The emotions in his heart were also quite subtle. Is this okay? Is it too simple? I am not used to it. Chapter 28 4-Star Hero. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A chubby vine fairy flew to Lear and rubbed against his face affectionately, like a clingy kitten. The moment he touched these little guys, the godhead in Lear's mind emitted a hazy glow. He was very close to these little guys. This was a situation that had never happened before. Obviously, the other party's father god was not called for nothing. He could clearly sense the emotions of these little guys at the moment, joy, excitement, joy, and joy. All joyful. At this moment, a message quietly flowed into his mind from the godhead. The vine fairy was a strange life created by the swamp god using part of the power of the creator god to help the swamp god take care of the swamp, but with the fall of the swamp god, the vine fairy gradually declined and died, and there were few left, and there are still many swamp lives that have a deep connection with the swamp god, but some have become extinct, and some are hidden somewhere unknown. The vine fairy is just one of them. Lear understood it now. It turns out there is such a connection. No wonder the other party let down his guard so quickly. The breath of the godhead cannot be forged. This is the power that belongs only to the gods. It is also a mark engraved in the soul and blood of the vine fairy. After coming to his senses, Lear showed a kind smile and stretched out his hand to pinch the chubby face of the little guy in front of him. Take the starry sky vine with us and go home. Yes, Father God, that the cheering vine fairy immediately flew back to the habitat, and the body turned into a light spot and merged into the vine. The next moment, swished at a large area of 20-meter wide vines suddenly rose from the ground, the roots pulled out of the ground, and the vines turned into tentacles, supporting the trunk. It looked like an octopus. Lear only realized at this moment that this large area of starry sky vines was actually a tree. Although it has dense secondary roots, there is only one main root. 16 little guys with 3-star potential directly controlled this 2-star vine to move. The scene of hundreds and thousands of vines dancing wildly looked quite visually impactful. Lear was very satisfied and waved his hand, asking the other party to follow him back to the still blank Wei-Lu city, under the control of the vine fairy. The starry sky vine turned into a special monster. It moved very aggressively, and it could cross wherever it passed, whether it was a pool of water or mud. The sun gradually set in the west and began to sink into the earth. When walking back about 5 kilometers, when passing a muddy pool with a diameter of 400 to 500 meters, Lear suddenly fixed his eyes and looked at the other side. At this moment, on the other side of the muddy pool, a group of special lives with a shoulder height of 2 meters appeared in front of him. The other party had a curved giant horn on his head, which was covered with moss. The markings on his body were like plum blossoms, which were very eye-catching. A pair of dark eyes looked at them curiously, with alertness and inquiry in their eyes, especially the starry sky vines controlled by the vine fairy. Their exaggerated size made them very alert. One of them was half the size of the other deer, with an exaggerated shoulder height of 3 meters, even from hundreds of meters away. One could feel the other's majesty. Lear looked at it intently. The other's attribute panel appeared in his mind. Swamp giant horned deer, hero unit, level 12, potential, 4 stars, racial talent, mud walker, possessed by the power of the swamp, can jump and run freely in the mud, and the movement speed is increased by an additional 60%, hero talent, illusory body, can make your body become illusory, immune to physical damage, and reduce 70% magic damage. Health, 12,000 points, all attributes increased by 30%, skills, charge, 3 stars, lower the head, with the giant horn in front, and when charging the enemy, the speed increases by 60% and the impact force increases by 80%. Earth trampling, 3 stars, tramples the earth, causing all life within a radius of 15 meters with itself as the center to stun. Magic horn, 3 stars. The giant horn on the head can cast 3 magics. Mud spell, hitting the enemy can directly melt it into mud. Magic shield. Create a magic shield to protect yourself or give it to your companions. Light spear penetration. Create a light spear that penetrates all enemies within 50 meters. Evaluation. A giant deer living in the swamp. It is the king of giant deer. Lear took a deep breath, and his eyes were a little fearful and hot. Level 12, 4-star potential hero. Swamp giant deer. This set of skills is fierce. Now the 200 wetland lizardmen and 12 swamp tree men in his hands can't do anything to this swamp giant deer hero. The fierce skill of the divine power, once cast on him, will definitely cause the opponent's rage. I can't afford to offend him, so I'll go home quickly. He silently retracted his gaze and asked the wetland lizardmen to speed up their actions. The vine fairy also controlled the starry sky vines to increase their speed. Soon, this group of impressive lives disappeared from sight. Lear silently memorized this area on the magic map and will come back when he becomes stronger in the future. The unknown giant 3-toed footprints and the swamp giant deer swamp need to be explored in depth. The next return trip did not encounter any more accidents. When we arrived at the city of Wispy Dew, the sun just sank into the swamp, and only a piece of afterglow remained in the sky. The territory was in full swing at this moment. Some swamp people were piling up the materials they had carried down, neatly stacked. Another group was clearing the ground and setting up tents. The carriage was parked aside, and the strong unicorn pulling the carriage was slowly eating the grass on the ground. The 12 level 9 swamp trees have returned to their indifferent appearance, with their branches and leaves swaying in the breeze. It looks quite harmonious. Seeing Lear return, Bane, a bog hero who was too busy to touch the ground, immediately stepped forward to greet him. Grown-ups. Although he saluted him, his eyes were fixed on the squirming starry sky vines. The gorgeous appearance like the starry sky allowed him to identify the vines without any difficulty. Sir, did you really bring back the starry sky vine? The god of the swamp is above, you must have received a gift from God. This is the legendary magical plant used to build the most powerful city of the swamp tribe, the city of Quagmire. Although that city had already collapsed in the War of Gods, wouldn't it be more glorious if the broken sword was recast? But why is this vine alive? I haven't heard that starry sky vines are the same as tree people. Lear saw the confusion in Bane's eyes and said slowly. There are vine fairies hidden in the starry sky vines. In the future, they will be responsible for cultivating the starry sky vines. Building houses with them also requires you to communicate with them. As he spoke, he motioned to the spacious grassland in front of him. You find a suitable place to place it, and it will be used as a growth area for starry sky vines in the future. Vine fairy. Bane's eyes lit up. Those legendary beings really exist. I glanced at the octopus-like vines with curiosity for a few times. After I didn't find the specific figure, I looked away with a little pity. Sir, why don't you place it in the north of the territory for the time being? And there is a vine fairy here. If you need to move it, it won't be too troublesome. Lear nodded. You just have to arrange these. After that, he gave another warning. Complete the territory planning as soon as possible. Yes, sir. Looking at the excited Bane, Lear waved towards the starry sky vines. Go with Bane, this will be our home from now on, and the city of Welu will be built in our hands. Bane patted his chest and assured. The glory of the swamp will surely be restored. But after saying that, I felt a little regretful. It's a pity that the number of starry sky vines is too small to support the construction of the territory, and can only be used to build core buildings. The amount of vines required to build a territory is absolutely staggering, and now it can only build 3 or 2 houses. Hearing this, the little guys in the vines suddenly became anxious. Waves of spiritual power came. Father God, we can make the starry sky vines grow faster. We have a solution, Father God. Leave it to us, we won't let you down. They are vine fairies. How can you let Father God be embarrassed by such a thing? Lear sensed the mood of the vine fairies and looked at their skills again, becoming interested, communicated with these little guys in detail. Finally, the vine fairy told him that the starry sky vines grew to such a large scale not because they grew slowly, but because they were too lazy to cultivate them. If necessary, the growth rate can be greatly increased, and the starry sky vine can grow 1 meter in 1 day. If what the vine fairy said is true, it is enough to use starry sky vines to build buildings. I felt more at ease, immediately asked Bane to communicate with the vine fairy in detail. He knew nothing about architecture, and Bane, the craftsman hero, was responsible for the actual construction. The squirming figure of the starry sky vine attracted everyone's attention. When they came to the north of the territory, the roots seemed to slowly penetrate into the ground. The vines quietly settled on the water's edge. Its natural appearance looks like it was originally part of this area. After the starry sky vines fell, light spots flowed, and a fist-sized vine fairy appeared between the vines. A pair of wings made of green vines flap, delicate and small, wearing a crown of thorns on its head, and its clothes are also made of vines and leaves. Paired with the fleshy face, it's indescribably cute, curious and timid. He hid in the vines, stuck his little head out, and timidly looked outside. After meeting a stranger, he would hide away shyly. The moment he saw these little guys, Bane was instantly adorable, and a kind smile appeared on his wrinkled face. I looked at it frequently with excitement and curiosity. Is this the vine fairy? The legendary great swamp god, a magical life created by borrowing the power of the creator god. God is favoring your lord. Chapter 29 Ancient Life Form Mudworms Really Eat Dirt. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 29 Ancient Life Mudworms Really Eat Dirt. The super cute vine fairy immediately won everyone's love. No one would not be interested in this chubby little cutie. The mud people who finished their work gathered around and looked at it curiously. A smile like an ant appeared in their eyes, sensing the kindness of the crowd, and with Lear next to them, these timid guys were no longer afraid. They poked their heads out of the vines with a little shyness and looked at the crowd curiously. Then they gradually became bolder and began to fly to the edge of the vines tentatively to contact the mud people. Finally, they made sure that these people would not hurt themselves, flapped their wings and began to shuttle among the crowd. Like a playful child, however, they always kept a distance from the crowd and would not be as close as they were with Lear. Some people wanted to pinch them curiously, but they were all stared back by the fierce eyes of these little guys. It made people laugh. Bane had not recovered from his excitement at this moment. Only he knew what the vine fairy meant. This is the life created by the swamp god. Unlimited potential. He dispersed the crowd of onlookers with a fierce face and went up to communicate with these little cuties alone. Seeing this, Lear no longer paid attention to them and sat on the grass beside him with a little fatigue. After traveling for more than half a month, he felt very tired even though he had upgraded to the transformation level. At this moment, he arrived at the destination and obtained the star vines and vine fairies, which made him feel a lot more relaxed. The feeling of fatigue surged up. After calming down, he couldn't help but fall into thought. The Noya rice currently in hand can be used for the current population for 5 months, but the food problem still needs to be prepared for a rainy day. There are 30 carriages of basic supplies, which are enough for early use. The biggest difficulty in the territory at present is actually building houses. The swamp is like a flat mountain. This lawn looks flat, but if you build a building, a heavy rain may cause the ground to sink and collapse unless it is fixed with magic. But after getting the starry sky vine, this problem was solved. The most important thing now is to carry out the initial construction of the territory and carry out various basic work at the same time. Let the city of Wei Lu gradually operate. There are so many things to do, and it takes a little bit to do it. Take a deep breath and look at the intelligence. Again, the other few have been completed. At present, only the group of more than 500 fierce rotten centaurs with a level of 9, 30 kilometers north of, cannot be dealt with. This high-level wild monster gathering point needs to be tried after the strength in hand is sufficient. While thinking, Lear suddenly seemed to think of something, waved his hand, and asked Haggis to get his bag. After a while, Lear took out a small cage woven with exquisite bamboo strips from the bag. A gray, fleshy little bug was eating leaves inside. This is the swamp life, mudworm, that Falena, the flower of the north, got from the ancient ruins. According to the other party, mudworms are ancient life forms that can grow to 100 meters long and can prey on giant dragons when they grow up, but because they have been sleeping for too long, their source power is lacking and they can never recover. And on the attribute panel, the attributes of mudworms are also very simple. Mudworm, level 1, potential, source damaged, and then it's gone. The attributes are so simple that it's confusing. He has studied it several times these days, but he hasn't found anything, and the godhead has no reaction to mudworms. This worm seems to be just an ordinary vegetable worm that only knows how to eat leaves. The vine fairy who was communicating with Bane seemed to have discovered something at this time, flapping her wings and whirring around Lear. The big black eyes looked at the little worm in the cage with a bit of heartache. Father God, this little guy is so pitiful. I heard it calling for help. It's dying. A vine fairy flew to Lear's hand, hugged his arm and said pitifully, Father God, please save it. The mudworm is asking for help. Lear said in a deep voice. Can you hear it talking? Ask it what it needs. The vine fairy who was holding his arm immediately lowered her head, hummed a few words in front of the cage, and then said excitedly, Father God, it needs to eat mud. Lear was stunned. Eat mud? So the mudworm really eats mud? Are you sure? Of course. The vine fairy was very proud. The more magical energy the mud contains, the faster it will improve. But now, it only needs to eat mud. Those leaves are useless. They can only keep it from starving to death. Lear was speechless. No wonder Falena, the genius magician, didn't know how to let the other party recover. With the other party's identity, and the treasure obtained from the ancient ruins, she would definitely not feed it mud. It was precious to begin with, and was fed with magic plants every day. Who would have thought of this? He did not hesitate, picked up the small cage and came to the edge of the grass, and carefully opened the cage. He took out the mudworm. It was fleshy and felt like cotton when pinched. He tentatively put it on the mud. This little finger-sized, gray, soft guy immediately let out a cry of joy. He immediately lay on the mud and began to eat frantically, as if he had not eaten for half a month, eating with a crunch. The rustling sound was like a silkworm chewing on mulberry leaves. It cleaned up. A large piece of mud in front of it, and the life breath like a candle gradually stabilized. Every now and then, it would raise its head and burp, its belly became round and bulging, and it was obviously thicker than its body. This grey little bug was actually a little cute at this moment. While Lear was thinking, he injected his mental power into the godhead. The next moment, the pressure of the godhead surged out and directly enveloped the mud bug. Before, the opponent's life breath was too weak, so it was difficult for him to subdue the opponent. If something unexpected happened, the loss would be great. Now it can be done. The grey mud bug, with its belly turned upside down, suddenly became energetic, turned its head to look at Lear, and moved its body. A sense of joy came from his mind, without the slightest intention of resistance. Lear's heart moved slightly, a soothing emotion came out. In its soul, the soul mark was imprinted. From then on, no matter how ferocious the mud bug became, it would be under his control and loyal to him. Forever. However, it is incredible that such a small pudding can grow to 100 meters long and prey on giant dragons. Bring the mudworm to the area in front of the starry sky vines. Let this little guy eat mud here, and don't leave this area. At the same time, send 2 wetland lizardmen to guard to prevent accidents. It was already dusk when all this was done. It was night, on the spacious grassland. Lear looked up at the night sky with a little light. The ears were full of frogs and insects, which made people relax inexplicably. It was pitch black all around, and no torches or candles were lit. Having light in a dark environment is not necessarily a good thing. There are swamp creatures with night vision around, so there is no need to worry about inconvenience. Everyone gathered around the swamp tree man and lay on the ground to sleep peacefully. These tall tree men are the best sentinels. The tents are used to store supplies. Before the house is built, it basically has to be like this. After entering the deep night, a breeze suddenly blew, the clouds in the sky dissipated, the starry sky began to flicker, and the night was full of stars, twinkling, like a dream. Lear, who was not asleep, suddenly found that spots of light were lit up in the north. He sat up and looked with a little curiosity. In the starry sky vine area, particles of light condensed in the air and slowly merged into the vines. At the same time, fist-sized light bulbs were shuttling through the vines. Wherever they passed, the speed at which the starry sky vines swallowed the starlight increased significantly. The buds on it were growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The vine fairy was cultivating the starry sky vines. Chapter 30. The first building in the territory. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Early the next morning, the swamp people woke up and started a new day of work. Many people were surprised to find that the vines that took root at the edge of the territory last night and spread out about 20 meters had increased their coverage to 22 to 3 meters today. It was obviously expanded. When Lear arrived, Bane said excitedly, "My lord, the speed at which the vine fairy cultivates the starry sky vines far exceeded my expectations. Today, we can build a house." "Build it today?" Lear raised his eyebrows slightly. "How is the planning?" Bane said with a little pride. "My lord, I have completed the preliminary planning with the help of starlight last night." He took out a piece of paper with patterns drawn on it from his arms. Lear took it, looked at the dense patterns and strange marks on it, and raised his eyebrows slightly. "Tell me about it." Bane responded, pointed to a corner of the map, and began to describe it in detail. "North, I plan to make it a living area. The water in the swamp flows down from here, and the water will not be polluted in the future. East, as a military zone, the army is stationed here. In the future, it must be separated from the outside world and outsiders are prohibited from entering, so as not to expose our military secrets. South, as the industrial zone of Wei-Lu City, blacksmith shops, weapon shops, alchemy workshops, tailor shops, etc. can be set up here. West, connected to the outside world, the path into the swamp extends from here, which can be temporarily designated as a commercial area. In the future, when Wei-Lu City grows stronger, it will inevitably communicate with the outside world. Having a commercial area can limit the outside world's prying into the territory, and it can also be centrally managed. The central area is your mansion, which is also the government affairs center, responsible for handling various affairs of the territory. Said with some trepidation. These are all preliminary ideas. There are still many imperfections. Do you have any points to add? Lear looked at the plan above and fell into thought. it was indeed very rough, but at least the various functional sections of the territory were distinguished. It was far from perfect, but for a blank territory, it was no problem to lay the foundation. While thinking, he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Can I use star vines to build houses on the mud and pools?" Bane was stunned for a moment, then nodded. "Of course you can. Star vines are the cornerstone of the construction of the Swamp City. That the Swamp City has always been the most powerful city among the Swamp Clan in ancient times, leaving behind countless legends. Compared with the main city of the Swamp Clan, the city of Wile, which only remained in the mouth, the Swamp City was regarded as a holy city by more Swamp Clan. Although this city has long disappeared in the long river of time, but such a city uses star vines to build houses. How bad can this magical plant be?" Lear nodded. "In that case, then expand the territory planning scope. This grassland with a diameter of 2 kilometers can't accommodate the city of Wei Lu. The later planning should be done as soon as possible, and we should be bold and have a long-term vision." The calm tone shocked Bane's mind, and his eyes were a little hot. "Yes, sir." After arousing Bane's fighting spirit, Lear looked at the place where the swamp tree man took root. "First build the government hall of Wei Lu City, and the rest can be postponed. He needs a landmark, a building that gathers people's hearts. Magnificent, grand, and leave enough space for expansion. It will not be outdated in the next 20 years, or even 50 or 100 years. This is my requirement for the government center." "As you wish." Bane was ambitious at this moment, and he wanted to use what he had learned in his life immediately. When the two communicated, they sensed Lear's breath, and the vine fairies who were sleeping in the starry sky vines jumped out one by one, flying to his side with flapping wings. They began to act like a spoiled child, rubbing their chubby, white and rosy little faces against him. Bane's eyes were full of envy. Yesterday, he wanted to touch the faces of these little guys, but he was scolded angrily. While the cute and fierce appearance made people laugh and cry, it also made him realize that only Lear could make these little guys so intimate. Envy is too much. "Today, cooperate with Bane to build our first building. Keep doing your best." Encouraged by Lear, the vine fairies immediately became energetic. One by one, they rushed to pat their chests and promise him, "Father God, I can make the starry sky vines grow very quickly. You will be satisfied. Father God, I can make them grow very strong, stronger than everyone else. Father God." "Yes. Yes, I am the same." Looking at these little cute things, Lear laughed. After a series of praises, all the vine fairies happily went to build with Bane. "This swamp man is a true craftsman hero." Bane immediately recruited 20 people from the swamp people, took out a blueprint, and began to instruct them in detail. Then he looked at the vine fairies seriously and asked them to cultivate the starry sky vines at each point. When they entered the working state, their faces were full of seriousness and their momentum had obviously changed. They were completely free of the cautiousness that the swamp people usually carried. Although it was called cultivation, it was also very magical. The vine fairy broke off a piece of vine from the starry sky vine and planted it in the soil. Then a faint starlight emanated from his body, shining on the vines. The next moment, the vines seemed to be fast-forwarded dozens of times, taking root and sprouting at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they grew into a small clump of vines. 16 vine fairies interlaced back and forth, and in less than half an hour, Bane had set a point and planted vines. Lear was also interested when he saw this scene. Bane did not want to use the ready-made vines to weave a house, but directly use the power of the vine fairy to let the vine grow a building. In this way, because of the existence of the vine fairy, this building can be continuously adjusted and expanded. If it is not suitable, it can be reorganized. In this way, the strengths of the starry sky vines and vine fairies are brought to the extreme. Not bad, very good. The only disadvantage of doing this may be that it consumes more vine fairies. These little guys have been busy all morning and are tired and sweaty. It consumes a lot to promote the cultivation of starry sky vines. Fortunately, the vine fairies do not need to consume food, and their energy source is the starry sky vines themselves. At noon, when the sun was scorching, the vine fairies went into the vines and had a good sleep. When they woke up in the afternoon, they had recovered and continued to use their skills of growing fast. under their cultivation, the starry sky vines are growing at an exaggerated speed. At this rate, perhaps by the end of this month, a magnificent building will be able to rise from the ground, and this building is still alive. Even if the enemy invades, the vine fairy can control it to resist the enemy. Who can I ask for reason to be perfect?